There's a specific kind of person who Googles, "Am I doing okay in retirement?" at 11 o'clock at night, in the dark, with reading glasses pushed up on their forehead, and then immediately closes the laptop because the first result is a screaming headline about how you need $3 million or you'll die eating cat food under a bridge. If that's you, first of all, hi. Second of all, just breathe, because I'm about to tell you something the financial media will never say out loud, because fear tends to pay the bills. Most retirees are not fine. The bar is on the floor, and there's a very good chance you're already stepping over it without even noticing. Here's the number nobody frames the right way. The median retirement savings for Americans between 65 and 74 is somewhere around $200,000. That's the middle of the pack. Half the people in that age group have less than that, and more than half of all U.S. households have no dedicated retirement savings at all. Zero. Nothing. A savings account with a rubber band around it. So when a headline tells you the magic number to retire comfortably is $1.4 million, understand what that actually means. It means the finish line they've drawn is one that about 97% of retirees never cross. Roughly 3% of retirees have $1 million or more. 3. The other 97 are out there living their lives, mowing their lawns, arguing about the thermostat, and doing, honestly, okay. So today, we're flipping the whole thing around. I'm giving you the signs you're quietly ahead. Not rich, not private jet ahead, just ahead of the people standing next to you at the pharmacy counter. Let's get into it. Sign number 1. You genuinely don't know your account balance to the dollar. Quick gut check. Right now, without looking, what is the exact balance of your retirement account? If you just rattled off a number to the cent, I want you to sit with that for a second, because knowing your balance down to the penny at all times usually isn't a sign of being on top of things. It's a sign your nervous system is chained to that number, refreshing the app like it's a slot machine, feeling great on green days and slightly nauseous on red ones. The people who are actually doing well, they're a little fuzzy on it. They'll go, it's somewhere around, I don't know, 440, 450. Ask my wife, she handles the login. That fuzziness is a flex. It means the day-to-day numbers stopped being an emergency a long time ago. It means a bad week in the market is background noise, not a reason to cancel Christmas. When you've got enough cushion that a Tuesday dip doesn't reach up and grab you by the throat, you stop staring at the number. You just live. Now, I'm not telling you to be reckless. Check your accounts once a month, maybe once a quarter, like a functioning adult. But if the last time you looked, you glanced, nodded, and went back to your coffee without your pulse changing, that calm is worth more than most people's portfolios. You can't buy that feeling. A lot of millionaires never get it. Sign number 2. A surprise expense annoys you instead of terrifying you. Here's the real stress test of a retirement, and it's got nothing to do with your investment mix. The water heater dies, the transmission goes, the dog eats something a dog should never eat, and now there's a $2,000 vet bill and a very sheepish golden retriever. What happens inside you when that bill lands? For most people in this country, that surprise is a full-blown crisis. It's a payment plan. It's a hard conversation. It's a credit card that was supposed to stay at zero. For you, if you're doing better than most, that same bill is just irritating. It's a bad word muttered in the driveway. It's a, well, there goes the fun money for this month. You pay it, you grumble, you move on. Nobody's losing sleep. Nobody's opening a new line of credit. That gap between terrifying and merely annoying is one of the truest signs of financial health there is, and almost nobody measures it. It means you've got liquid money you can actually reach, not locked up money, not I'd have to sell something at a loss money, real boring sitting in an account cash you can grab when life does what life does. The unglamorous truth of a good retirement is that it's built on boring money doing nothing in a boring account. If a $5,000 surprise makes you sigh instead of sweat, you are ahead of the pack, and it's not close. Sign number 3. Social Security is the gravy, not the whole plate. Let's talk about the check. The average Social Security retirement benefit in 2026 is right around $2,000 a month. Call it $24,000 a year. And here's the part that should stop you cold. For a huge share of American retirees, that check isn't part of the income. It is the income. The whole thing. That's what they're living on. $24,000 a year in this economy, with eggs priced like they're individually blessed by a monk. So here's the sign. If your Social Security check shows up every month and your reaction is somewhere between, oh, nice, and cool, extra, rather than, thank God we made it another month, you are doing dramatically better than the typical retiree. When that deposit is the gravy on top of a pension or a paid-off house or a portfolio you're pulling from and not the entire meal, that's the whole ballgame right there. And I'll add this because somebody in the comments is already typing it. Yes, they gave us a 2.8% raise in 2026, which sounds lovely until you notice your Medicare premium and your grocery bill both went up by more than that. A cost of living adjustment that doesn't keep up with your actual cost of living is just a magic trick with extra steps. The people who are winning aren't the ones getting the biggest check. They're the ones who'd be okay if the check were a little smaller because they built something underneath it. The check is the cherry. It was never supposed to be the sundae. Sign number 4. You spend money on your health without flinching. Watch what somebody does with a doctor's recommendation and you'll learn everything about how their retirement is really going. There's a whole category of retiree who will skip the physical therapy because it's a $40 copay. We'll ration the medication to stretch the bottle. We'll pass on the dental work and the good mattress and the shoes that wreck their knees all to save a few bucks, while the entire point of saving money for decades was, presumably, to be alive and comfortable to enjoy it. That is not frugality. That is fumbling the ball on the 1-yard line. If you're doing better than most, you've made peace with the idea that your health is the one account you can't rebuild. You'll pay for the physical therapy. You'll get the knee looked at. You'll spend the money on the trainer or the better food or the specialist who's out of network but actually knows what they're doing. Not because money grows on trees, but because you understand the grim math. The most expensive thing you'll ever own is a body you stopped maintaining. The retirees who thrive treat their health like the asset it is. They're not being extravagant. They're protecting the one thing that makes all the other things worth having. What good is a full account if you're too worn down to use it? If you've started treating your body like it's worth investing in, you already understand something most people learn too late. Sign number 5. You get bored sometimes, and that's a luxury. Here's a sign that sounds like a complaint but is secretly a brag. You occasionally get bored. Some Tuesday afternoon, everything's handled, nobody needs anything, and you find yourself wandering the house going, well, now what? And it feels almost like a problem. I need you to understand what a privilege that quiet little boredom actually is, because the alternative to being bored in retirement for millions of people is being terrified. It's the retiree who's back at a part-time job at 73, not for the socializing, but because the numbers don't work without it. It's the person whose retirement is really just unemployment with a nicer name. If your days have empty space in them, space you get to fill with a hobby, a nap, a project, a grandkid, or aggressively reorganizing the garage for the 4th time, that empty space is the entire thing you were saving for. That's the product. That's what the money was for. Time you own. Now, real talk, that boredom is also a warning light, and the retirees who do this best pay attention to it. The ones who struggle emotionally aren't the ones without money. They're the ones who retired from something and never figured out what they retired to. So if you've got the boredom handled, a reason to get up, something that's yours, you've cracked a code a lot of wealthier people never do. Plenty of rich retirees are miserable because they're bored and won't admit it. If you're bored and content, that's the win. That's the game. Sign number 6. You quietly stopped racing the neighbors. At some point, if things are going right, a switch flips, and you stop caring what the people around you are driving. The neighbor rolls home with the giant new truck. Somebody at church takes the big cruise and won't stop talking about it. The old coworker's on Facebook in front of a rented villa with a caption about being so blessed. And the version of you from 20 years ago would have felt that little twist in the gut, that should we be doing that too? And now? Now you look at the truck and your first thought is, man, I would not want that payment. That shift is enormous, and here's why it's a genuine sign of doing well. Half of the people flaunting the shiny stuff are financing it. That gorgeous retirement on Instagram is very often being funded by a home equity loan and a prayer. You're comparing your real, boring, solvent life to somebody else's highlight reel, and the highlight reel has debt behind it you will never see. The retirees who are actually secure went quiet. They stopped announcing things. They drive the paid-off car another 5 years and let the neighbor win the driveway. When you no longer feel the pull to keep up, when someone else's spending is genuinely just none of your business, you've reached a level of financial peace that no amount of money guarantees on its own. Some millionaires never get there. They're always looking sideways. If you've stopped looking sideways, you're free in a way that's hard to put a price on. Sign number 7. You have people to call and reasons to be called. I'm going to step off the money for a minute because this is the sign that outranks all the others, and almost no financial channel will tell you this. It's loneliness. The thing nobody warns you about is that when the work stops, the built-in social life stops with it. The coworkers you saw every single day, the meetings, the lunches, the little hallway chatter, it all just evaporates. And a shocking number of retirees wake up a couple years in and realize they haven't had a real conversation with a friend in weeks. The calendar's empty. The phone doesn't ring. That silence does real damage to your mood, and the research keeps showing to your body too. So here's the sign, and it's a good one. When something happens in your life, good or bad, is there a list of people you'd actually call? Do you have somebody who'd notice if you dropped off the map for a few days? Is there a standing thing on your calendar, the coffee group, the card game, the walk, the thing at the community center you pretend to complain about but never miss? If yes, you are wealthy in the way that actually predicts a happy retirement. That web of people is worth more than another $100,000 in the account, and it's a lot harder to build. You can't dollar-cost average your way into friends. If you've got them at this stage of life, you did something right that most people neglected. Protect that. Water it. It's the real portfolio. Sign number 8. You have a plan for the money you'll never spend. Last one, and it's the sign of someone who's not just surviving, they're a full lap ahead. Most people's entire financial question is, will I have enough? And that's a completely fair question to spend your working life on. But there's a smaller, luckier group who've quietly moved on to a different question altogether. What happens to what's left? If you've started thinking about the money you're not going to spend, where it goes, who it helps, the grandkids' college fund, the cause you care about, the estate set up so your family isn't drowning in paperwork and probate during the worst week of their lives, that is the mark of someone who solved the first problem and moved on to the next one. And listen, this doesn't require being rich. I've seen people with very modest amounts handle this beautifully. A simple will, beneficiaries actually filled in correctly, a folder somebody can find, a conversation with the kids that wasn't fun but needed to happen. And I've seen people with real money leave behind an absolute mess because they never wanted to think about it. The retirees doing better than most aren't just protecting themselves. They've zoomed out far enough to think about the people who come after. That's not morbid. That's the opposite. That's someone so secure in their own footing that they've got attention left over to make things easier for everyone downstream. If your planning has a chapter that starts after you, you're not just doing better than most retirees. You're doing better than most people at any age. You don't need to have every single one of these. If you nodded along to even 3 or 4, I want you to actually hear this because you don't say it to yourself nearly enough. You are doing better than most. Not fine for someone who made mistakes. Better. Better than the median, better than the majority, better than the person who wrote that terrifying headline that got you Googling at 11 o'clock at night the first place. And if none of this was you, don't close this and decide it's too late. That's the only truly expensive mistake. Pick the one sign that felt furthest away and do the smallest version this week. $50 saved, one friend texted. Behind isn't doomed, just don't quit. The finish line the internet keeps drawing was never real. The real one is a lot closer than they let on, and there's a very good chance you already crossed it and forgot to celebrate. So, which of these hit home for you, and which one's still a work in progress? Tell me in the comments, because somebody reading yours needs to hear they're not the only one. If this made you breathe a little easier, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I make these so you spend less time scared and more time actually enjoying the thing you worked your whole life for. I'll see you in the next one.